In the Company of Charity is a podcast by the Daughters of Charity of St. Vincent de Paul. Each episode will be discussing the church, society, and service to others, all through the lens of the spirit we received from St. Vincent de Paul, the Saint of Charity. Join in the conversation by sending your comments and questions to companyofcharity@gmail.com.
Okay, hi everyone. This is Sister Elizabeth. I'm here with my good friend, Sister Liz Sjoberg. How are you, Sister Liz?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. We have today an interview with Sister Iliana Aponte Colon, who is a sister from Puerto Rico, and you did a great interview with her. But we just want to set up a little bit before we get into the interview what's kind of happening, because this is a special interview for us on many different levels, but it's also the first in some ways as well. So Sister Iliana is from Puerto Rico, and Spanish is her first language. English is not her first language. And so we've used the services of an interpreter to help her through some of the interview is in English, and some she felt more comfortable speaking in Spanish. And so we do have some part of it is interpreted, which is a new experience for us.
We're very excited about that.
Yeah, and so we're hoping that this experiment and this episode will help us to see how we can broaden the experience in the episode of talking with people, and not just this episode, but others, and talking with people who for whom English is not their first language. So that's one piece of it. We also have to kind of set it in context. Sister Iliana is going to be speaking to us about her experience having come from the island of Puerto Rico. This was the anniversary of Hurricane Maria. And so it was a very emotional interview for her and for you, I think, Sister Liz, to talk about that experience a year later. And you could tell that the emotions were still pretty high. So do you want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, in just reflecting on it, I've prayed and reflected on this interview, since we recorded it a couple months ago. And, as a community, we come from families. That's where often our first seeds of vocation or faith come from. And we share a lot about our families at the dinner table or with our friends and community, and not just the fun and exciting backstories or childhood memories, but also what's going on with people's families today. And I think of, when people ask prayer requests for their parents or for a health issue that's going on with one of their family members. And we really do. We lift those up in prayer constantly for each other. Yeah,
and we should also say we're often not living close to our families, and because of our lives and our lifestyle, we don't have immediate access. We can't just up and leave. We don't spend holidays with our families, and so we do miss out sometimes. But being able to share those at the table and being able to share those in prayer with one another is important. And we have to also say that at the time that Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico, Sister Iliana, I believe, was living in North Carolina. So I think that comes out as well in the interview. But yeah.
And I said, wow, if it were me experiencing that, where my family was in some major disaster situation and I had not heard from them for weeks or even days, I think I would be really out of my mind and crazy and worried. And so, that's when we as a community are able to support each other as best we can when those kinds of things happen. And, she gives voice to that during this interview.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think it's important to let her speak the truth for her at that time, because it was very emotional. And so why don't we get into the interview again? I think you did a great job with this and really helped her tell her story, which is really important. So I hope everyone enjoys it, and also continue to pray for the people of Puerto Rico. They still need our prayers and they need our support. So let's just keep them all, lift them in prayer, and let Sister Iliana's words touch your heart.
Okay, here we are. I'm here with Sister Iliana, who is with us. This is going to be a very special episode, and it's going to be a mix of Spanish and English. And Sister Iliana, if you could just introduce yourself to the group and tell us a little about who you are.
As Sister Liz said, my name is Sister Iliana. Sister Iliana Aponte. I am from Arecibo, Puerto Rico, in the north of the island. I became a postulant of the Daughters of Charity in 1992, right after I graduated from high school. In 1994, I was incorporated into the community and began the seminary. I'm 24 years in my vocation. Next year, I will be celebrating my 25th anniversary of vocation.
Congratulations.
25th
anniversary.
Vocational. I'm excited about that.
It's going to be great.
Yes. I worked in Puerto Rico for around 20 years.
That's great.
Because I came to United States in 2011. Okay. I worked in Miami for 5 years, and now I'm here. In Chicago.
When you started, what was your profession? What did you do?
I studied social work. Yeah, I worked in Puerto Rico in different places, as the Hospital Damas in Puerto Rico and Ponce. I work with homeless. I work with a nursing home. I work with the Sister Elderly House, with youth group, with children, assisted living, in many places.
Wherever the company sends you.
Yeah.
So, Sister, can you tell us a little bit about, I know it's almost a year since the anniversary of Hurricane Maria that came and hit Puerto Rico pretty hard. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience of hearing about it and your family and friends and people that you know who were affected? And feel free in Spanish or English.
Yeah. Para conocimiento de algunas personas.
Just a quick explanation for those who do not know where Puerto Rico is. It's located in the Caribbean. The Caribbean is one of the areas that is very threatened by hurricanes. Generally, hurricane season starts in May and finishes by November 30th. During the time, in the Caribbean island is always expecting some natural phenomenon as hurricanes and storms. For many years, Puerto Rico has not experienced a hurricane. I think the last hurricane was, it wasn't Hugo. I can't remember the name right now. This Hurricane Maria, when the news started to warn about Hurricane Maria, they were saying that this hurricane would hit strongly and destroy Puerto Rico. In fact, it did. At that moment, I was in South Carolina, the same day of the hurricane. I was traveling to Texas when the Hurricane Maria was passing through Puerto Rico.
Yo estaba viajando. I was flying.
That's crazy. You're flying on the same day that it hit.
Yeah, to go to Texas. Pues solo estaba viendo noticias.
Right after I arrived in Texas, I was watching the news to see what had happened in Puerto Rico. But Hurricane Maria cut all power lines and there was no internet access, so nobody knew anything. For a very long time after, I think 1 month later, people heard about Puerto Rico.
And your parents, you didn't hear from them for 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
The very first call I got was from my mom. I could not talk. I was trying to locate my parents. I knew they were okay because where they live is safe. I was worried about my sister because the area where she lives is not safe. She lives in a place where there are many trees around. It's like a mountain. My worry was for my sister and my nephew. The first call that I got was from my mother. I could not talk. The only thing she told me was, "We are okay."
And the phones weren't working. I mean, people were trying to get each other through Facebook or...
Había un sistema de walkie-talkie.
Okay.
There was a walkie-talkie system in Puerto Rico. I had a friend in Florida whose brother works with the fire department and civil defense. I was able to contact her, but she did not know anything about her family and brother. She told me how I could try to contact my family, but I couldn't get through.
No couldn't, yeah.
No.
That's so scary. And so it took a whole month before you heard about your sister.
Yes, but now I remember the first call that I got from Puerto Rico. It was from my aunt. The second call from my mother and my father.
I think I would have just
first call
cried.
Came from my aunt 2 weeks later.
Wow.
Because ella vive en un área más al norte.
She lives in the north of the island.
Y por lo general,
Usually there are more possibilities to communicate there.
comunicarse. Ella se trepó encima de una casa
She climbed on top of a house and got
y
signal,
logró señal. Pero solo me dijo,
but
"Hola,
she only
Iliana."
said, "Hi, Iliana, I'm fine."
Y se cayó la llamada.
Then we lost signal.
Y ya,
That's it.
that's it. Then, I think 3 weeks later, I got a phone call from my mother. And I talked a little more with my mother and my father. But in just a moment, the phone,
Just died.
yeah.
Wow. And so as time was going on, I mean, were your family's homes, were they destroyed or only just the power and water? What was going on there?
No, la casa de mis padres, como
No, my parents' house,
es un lugar seguro. Es una
as I mentioned before, is a safe place. They live in an urban area and the house structure is solid.
no como
We have had many hurricanes, very strong hurricanes. They were not as strong as Maria, but they were strong. The house is solid. It's not an area that gets flooded.
es un área segura.
It's a safe area.
Y la casa realmente, mi papá perdió un
My dad did lose a small house
que tenía
that was on top of his house, like a shed, where he keeps all his tools. But there was really no big damage.
big damage. No.
And the sisters there, we saw pictures, I don't know, days afterwards, 400 pictures of all the damage of the provincial house there.
Yeah.
And it seemed very serious for the sisters.
Las casas de las hijas de la caridad en Puerto Rico fueron
The houses of the Daughters of Charities in Puerto Rico were pretty much destroyed.
Una de las casas que mayor destrucción tuvo fue la casa central.
Casa Central was one of the houses that was partially destroyed, which is in Santurce.
Prácticamente
The sisters lost an area that was used for room and board for retreats.
son habitaciones para retiros.
Also, a bridge that connects the house to the chapel was destroyed, as well as a part of the top of the chapel.
Un bridge que conecta entre la casa de las hermanas.
They didn't have electricity or running water for 3 months,
Perdieron un
I
área,
believe.
de la parte arriba de la iglesia. de
The
la
elderly
capilla de
sisters'
las
home
hermanas.
got the electricity back after 4 months.
Ellas no tu- without power and without water.
That's crazy. Now, what was your experience and in talking with people or seeing them about the response from the community about that, from the Vincentian family, so to speak?
Lo que he podido ver a través de los medios de internet.
What I was able to watch through the social media, like Facebook, because the news has been talking about what happened in Puerto Rico, but not about what people have been doing after Hurricane Maria. One of the qualities of Puerto Ricans is having solidarity amongst the people. Especially emergency situations, Puerto Ricans unite in solidarity.
Cuando ocurre algún desastre en Puerto Rico, como todos los puertorriqueños se unen para levantar a lo que...
This is one of the characteristics of the people of Puerto Rico after disaster occurs. They join together to move the country forward. This country that is called Island of Enchantment or Borinquen. What I've seen on Facebook, Vicente Marian Youth, which is one of the branches of the Vincentian family, in collaboration with the Daughters of Charity, St. Vincent de Paul, and Ladies of Charity, were visiting the towns that were affected the most. They gave food, water, clothing. The youth were doing this. They offered not only food, but also spiritual happiness. They were bringing guitars, singing in the middle of the streets, and praying with the people. Then they gave food to the people, or while some of them were giving food, others were singing and dancing. The sisters were delivering food too. This is what I was able to watch on Facebook. One sister from Puerto Rico also told me what the daughters were doing. Although the Daughters of Charity's house had damage and had needs themselves, they went out to serve those who were in need.
A las personas con mucha necesidad, teniendo ellas la necesidad.
That's a really special point in my mind, because I think sometimes, we sisters don't suffer the same as other people do, as the poor do. And in this case, you're saying, even though the sisters were suffering, they lost their homes too. The sister's house was destroyed. And they're doing the same too. Even though they're suffering, they're going out and helping others. And that's really beautiful.
Without power, without water en las casas, ellas iban a ayudar.
The Daughters of Charity also received a large donation from the Mother's House in France to help the poorest people who had lost practically everything.
A las personas más pobres que perdieron prácticamente todo.
They got money for their own houses too, but they got specific money for those who had lost everything. As I know, the sister who I know very well has been using the money for that intention.
That's awesome. Everybody wants the government to solve all the problems sometimes, but here's an example of a community coming together, and that's such a gift of being an international group of sisters. When one is suffering, we all suffer, and being able to provide help to sisters and to the community in other areas and to the poor in other areas is really amazing, because we know when the Mother House sends you money and says, this is for the people who lost everything, we can be assured that the sisters will do that.
Yeah.
And they will find the people who really, really need it. That's pretty cool.
Y sí, muchas personas pues recibieron
In fact, many people received the money and
y han
rebuilt their
levantado
homes.
sus hogares. Han construido
They had what
sus
they
casas
needed,
o
especially for their houses.
tienen lo que necesitan.
When I was in Texas,
lo
I remember an
necesario
experience I had.
para la casa.
In
Cuando yo
December,
estaba en
after
Texas,
Hurricane Maria,
me
I
estoy
went to Puerto
acordando de una
Rico.
experiencia que tuve. Yo fui a Puerto Rico after Huracán María.
One of the co-workers
en diciembre.
has family in Puerto Rico,
Una de las empleadas
but her family didn't have electricity.
de
So she asked
ella tiene familia en
if I
Puerto
can take a
Rico.
generator
En mi
on my trip.
De primera intención yo dije generador. Eso es mucho. Eso pesa.
First I said,
Es heavy.
it's a generator. It's
Y
heavy.
Yo me imaginaba un big generator, heavy, and I say, I have no idea how I'm going I take this, but in my heart I say, yes, why not? Because her family, I think her father, tenía
Her
que dar
stepfather
terapia de oxígeno.
had to do some oxygen therapy,
No tenían luz y pues,
but her family didn't have electricity and the generator would help them.
y en Puerto Rico no se estaban consiguiendo los generadores. No había.
People were
la-
not able to
las
find
tiendas
generators in
quedaron
Puerto
vacías.
Rico.
Eso sí me lo contó mi familia. Las
The
tiendas-
stores were
las tiendas
empty.
quedaron
My
vacías,
family
no había
told
agua,
me that.
no había comida.
The stores had nothing.
Aparte de que no había electricidad,
There was no
había
water
cómo pagar. Tú
no
podías
food,
hacer un pago porque
because there was no electricity.
no tenía,
Plus,
no había luz
people
para
could not
hacer
pay
pago con tarjeta.
because there was no electricity to use the credit
Eh,
cards.
Los precios subieron.
Despite what had
a pesar
happened in Puerto Rico, the prices increased.
de lo que estaban pasando en Puerto Rico, pero no había batería. Yo tuve
There
que
were no
mandar batería a
batteries
Puerto Rico
either.
desde Texas. Mi hermana me
I
pidió
had to send
batería y la
batteries
comunidad de
from
la
Texas to Puerto Rico. My sister asked me to send her batteries.
para envío de
So the
batería,
sisters in Texas paid for shipping batteries
porque no
because there
había
was no
batería en
batteries.
Puerto Rico. No había,
There was nothing after the hurricane.
no había nada.
There was
Después del
nothing
huracán,
left in the
las
stores
tiendas quedaron
because of the
sin
product
nada.
either was damaged or
O
expired.
porque se dañó o porque lo perdieron todo. Las tiendas. Llevé el generador.
I took the generator with me.
Volviendo al generador, llevé el generador y para ese tiempo pues ella pensaba
At that
que
time,
a lo mejor ya la
she
familia
thought
no-
maybe her
no,
family didn't need it anymore.
pero no, cuando yo llegué a Puerto
When
Rico,
I
el
arrived to
generador
Puerto
llegó
Rico,
bien,
the generator was good.
no tuve problemas.
I did not have any
en ningún
problems.
momento. Y pues el hermano de
Her
ella
brother
lo fue a buscar a mi
went to
casa,
look for it to my family's house,
y sí lo necesitaban,
and they did need it.
lo estaban necesitando. De primera intención,
At
pues yo dije,
first,
wow,
I said,
heavy,
it's heavy,
un generador, yo pensé.
but I thought,
Pero yo estaba desde acá
I am in the States.
y yo dije, algo tengo que hacer.
I have to do something.
¿Y qué? Pues
I had the
se me
opportunity
presentó la-
to go to
la
Puerto Rico.
oportunidad
So I said to
de
myself,
poder ir a Puerto Rico y dije, pues este va a ser
this will be my mission.
mi servicio,
I would help one family.
ayudar a una familia.
See how God works?
¿Ya?
God was inspiring all those things, all of the people and connections, and it just kind of came together. That's awesome. That's amazing.
¿Ya?
So we got to wrap up our time, but what do you think is important? What's important to remember? What should the people know about this experience for you and about the experience now for the people of Puerto Rico?
Yo creo que una de las cosas que las personas
I think
deben
one of the
recordar
things people need to remember,
es que no solo en
it's not
momentos de
only in
crisis
time of crisis,
se brinda la solidaridad,
you need to
sino
be
en
solidary at all times.
en todo momento. Si hay una necesidad a tu alrededor,
If there is a need around you,
pues hay que brindarla.
help.
Otra de las cosas, yo creo que
Another thing I want to say is
que puedo remarcar.
when there is tragedy, all the
No
Puerto
sé si tengo
Ricans join
tiempo,
together.
pero algo que dije anteriormente.
Here in the
que lo
U.S.,
copié.
all the Puerto Ricans join to send
Aquí en los
wagons of
Estados
food
Unidos, todos los
and other
puertorriqueños
necessities.
se unieron para enviar
And many
vagones.
social medias
Y muchos
organize
medios
shows with
presentaron
famous
artistas
people in order to help.
famosos que muchos conocen,
They went to Puerto
cómo ellos
Rico
fueron a Puerto Rico
to provide help
y-
and gave
y-
lots of money to
y
the
dieron
people.
mucho dinero para ayudar a Puerto Rico.
Again, not only in crisis or
No
hard
solo en los
times,
momentos de
we must help,
crisis, es el
but
momento
always.
That's beautiful. Well, we could talk on forever, but this was wonderful. Thank you so much. Sister Iliana, you are an inspiration, and we really appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast today. We keep praying for Puerto Rico. Let's not forget the people of Puerto Rico. And the stories of solidarity, the stories of being together and of giving, even when we feel like we don't have enough to give. These are really, really important points, and we thank you for bringing that up today.
Gracias.
So, gracias por todo.
And now it's time for Vincentian Pulse.
Are you a member of the body of Christ? 1 Corinthians chapter 12 tells us, "As a body is one, though it has many parts, and all the parts of the body, though many, are one body, so also Christ. For in one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, whether Jews or Greeks, slaves or free persons, and we were all given to drink of one Spirit. If one part suffers, all the parts suffer with it." St. John the 23rd said that solidarity which binds all men together as members of a common family makes it impossible for the wealthy to look with indifference upon the hunger, misery, and poverty of others. But if, as St. John Paul II tells us, solidarity is not a feeling of vague compassion or a shallow distress at the misfortunes of people, but rather a firm and persevering determination to commit ourselves to the good of all and of each individual, what does that mean? Do we demonstrate a commitment to the good of all in the way we spend our money, our time, energy, our influence, in the way we speak to others, what we post online? God's question to Cain about the welfare of his brother is met with a question in response: "Am I my brother's keeper?" He is in effect asking, "Must I be bothered with the welfare of another?" And Scripture answers yes. God's design calls for no division in the body, but that the parts may have the same concern for one another. If one part suffers, all suffer with it. If one part is honored, all share in its joy. So I ask again, are you a member of the body of Christ?
This has been In the Company of Charity podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.